In the heat of the moment, have you ever said or done something you instantly regretted? We've all been there. Anger is a powerful emotion, and it can feel like a storm inside you. Today, I want to share a story about a powerful king who had everything he could ever want, except for one thing: control over his own temper. This king was known throughout the lands for his fiery rage. If a servant dropped a plate, he'd roar. If a general lost a minor skirmish, he'd threaten exile. His anger was a destructive force, and his people, though loyal, lived in constant fear. The palace halls, once filled with laughter, grew silent and tense. The king felt lonely, isolated by the very fear he created. He knew something had to change, but he didn't know how. One day, desperate for a solution, the king summoned the wisest sage in the kingdom. This old man wasn't intimidated by the king's reputation. He arrived at the palace calm and composed. The king, pacing back and forth, boomed, "Sage, I am plagued by this rage that consumes me. Primera agua. And Tiet gone. Brew me a potion, cast a spell. Do whatever it takes to rid me of this curse." The sage simply smiled and shook his head gently. "Your Majesty, there is no magic that can simply erase an emotion, but there is a path to mastering it. I have a challenge for you. For the next 30 days, before you react in anger to anything, you must come to me and state your intention. If after speaking with me, you still wish to act on your anger, you are free to do so." The king, skeptical but desperate, agreed to the terms. The very next day, a courtier accidentally spilled wine on the king's pristine white robes. The king's face turned crimson. He clenched his fists, ready to explode. But then, he remembered his promise. He stormed out of the hall, much to everyone's surprise, and marched to the sage's chambers. "That clumsy fool. I'm going to have him thrown in the dungeon," he roared. The sage listened patiently. Then he asked a simple question. "And what will that accomplish, Your Majesty?" The king paused. "It will teach him a lesson," he snapped back. "Will it unspill the wine?" the sage asked. "No," the king admitted, his voice a little softer. "Will it make your other courtiers less nervous and more efficient?" The king thought for a moment. "No, it will probably make them even more terrified and prone to mistakes." As he spoke the words, a realization dawned on him. Punishing the courtier in a fit of rage would solve nothing and only make things worse. He took a deep breath, the red draining from his face. He returned to the hall, and to everyone's astonishment, simply said, "It was an accident. Bring me a new robe." This pattern continued. A merchant's caravan was late. A neighboring kingdom sent a dismissive letter. A cook oversalted his soup. Each time, the king felt the familiar fire of anger rise within him, and the Achdaimi forced himself to go to the sage first. The sage never told him what to do. He just asked questions. "What is the best possible outcome here? What will you gain from this action? Is there another way to see this situation?" Slowly, something incredible began to happen. The king started asking himself these questions before he even left his throne room. The pause, the simple act of stopping before reacting, became a powerful tool. He found that by the time he would have reached the sage, his anger had already subsided, replaced by clarity and reason. He started seeing solutions instead of just problems. He negotiated a new trade route with the merchant, sent a witty and firm diplomatic response to the other kingdom, and simply asked Cook to be more careful next time. By the end of the 30 days, the king was a changed man. The palace was no longer a place of fear. Laughter and lively debate returned to the halls. His advisors, no longer afraid to speak their minds, gave him better counsel than ever before. The kingdom prospered under his wise and level-headed rule. The king went to the sage one last time, not in anger, but in gratitude. "You have given me the greatest gift of all," he said. "You taught me that true power isn't the freedom to unleash my anger, but the wisdom to control it." The sage smiled and replied, "I taught you nothing, Your Majesty. I simply gave you the space to find the wisdom that was within you all along." This story reminds us that between a trigger and our reaction, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose. Anger is a natural human emotion, and it's not about suppressing it. It's about understanding it and choosing a response that serves us and those around us, instead of letting the emotion control us. The next time you feel that fire rising, try to create that pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself a simple question. You might be surprised by the wisdom you find. Thanks so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more content that can help us all live a more mindful and fulfilling life. See you in the next one.